Today I'm going to show you how to identify poison ivy, how to dress for the job, and how to begin to eradicate it. But let me warn you, it's a lifelong journey. I don't know how much poison ivy differs throughout the country, throughout the world, but here in the Northeast it seems to really thrive in wooded areas that are partly sunny, partly shady, under trees. I'm going to start out by showing you some of the leaves, what to look for, and then you'll know what you're looking for when you want to go out and just attack that poison ivy and get rid of it. Once you start to identify poison ivy, it becomes pretty easy to spot. Whenever you're walking around the woods. You've probably heard the old saying, leaves of 3, let it be. That's a pretty good thing to start with. And I'm just walking around here and I can see already some small poison ivy leaves around. Let's walk over to this cluster over here where there's quite a bit. This is a great example right here. These are relatively mature. You see the 3 leaves there, the one in the middle coming right from the vine, and then the 2 right and left shooting out. The leaves are kind of smooth on the edges. Sometimes you see a little jaggedness. We'll look over here at its brother, but there's a lot here. When it's young, it starts out more colorful, has kind of a reddish, shiny tint to it, but as it matures, it gets greener and greener and darker. See, there's a light leaf, but here this is all poison ivy and it gets less shiny and much greener. Now the only way I know of to kill poison ivy that's on the ground like this is really just to spray it with some type of herbicide. The other thing is to mow it, which is extremely dangerous because the oil that's on the leaves and in the vines can spray and get on you. So cutting it down is really not a great option, but it can work. So what I'm focusing on and what I'm hunting for are the vines on the trees, because you can have poison ivy grow and take over an entire tree and kill it. You'll think that the tree has leaves on it when in fact it's covered with poison ivy. Here's a great example right in front of me. You see this big hairy vine? That's all poison ivy. If we walk around the tree, that's not poison ivy. So this tree only has 1 vine growing on it. But if we follow that vine up, all those leaves at the top of the tree are poison ivy. Now here's another tree with just a few small vines. But those are poison ivy vines too. That's how it starts. Now for those small vines that I just showed you, you can simply cut them close to the ground and it will choke off the leaves that are growing up top. You can use a knife, you can use a small hatchet, but keep in mind, anything that you cut is going to end up with oil on it. And if you touch that blade or that surface, you're going to get the oil on your hands, on your body, and if you are like the 80% of mankind that's affected by poison ivy, you're going to get a rash, and it's not too pleasant. So the first thing is to make sure that you gear up before you walk into the poison ivy or touch it. Now, I'm going to be using a chainsaw for that bigger vine, which also can spray the oil. It's more of a thick grease, but it'll spray it. If it's in the wood chips, they get on you. You know, if you have heavy reactions to poison ivy, it's really best just to stay away from it. I react to it, but not terribly. But I'm going to be wearing safety glasses when I run the chainsaw because I don't want any of those chips in or around my eyes. The other thing we're going to do is put some rubber gloves on. They're somewhere in my pocket. Here they are. These are heavy-duty nitrile gloves. And I'm using these instead of my leather gloves because, you know why, I'm just going to throw these away. The leather gloves could have oil on them, and from what I've read, the potency of that oil never dissipates. So unless you wash it and scrub it off, it can stay on tools, it can stay on clothing almost indefinitely. It's crazy, crazy stuff. So, gloves on. I'm also wearing my rubber muck boots because any oil that gets on there would be easier to wash off than my leather boots. I'm going to take my pant leg and I'm going to cover the rubber boot so nothing falls down inside the boot. And when I'm done, I'm going to throw these clothes in the wash with hot water and heavy detergent, maybe wash them a couple of times, shower, scrub. The key to not letting the rash get out of control is to scrub it off. Scrub between your fingers, scrub everywhere you can, and treat it like if you had spray paint on you or glue or grease. You know, you don't just wash it off, you really have to scrub it. So let's start by cutting a couple vines. Now these small vines that I showed you a few minutes ago are about 1/4 inch in diameter. And I actually came out here the other day, about 3 days ago, and I just took my pocket knife and I cut the vine here and I cut it here and left a little gap there. So from this point up, it's not getting any moisture or nutrients and it's killing off the leaves. I have read that poison ivy can grow back from the root. Personally, I've not seen it. I've found this to be very effective. I haven't seen it start to grow again, but I'll keep an eye on it. You can cut it closer to the ground, but I'm going to leave it just like that. Let me show you, after just a couple of days, what happened to the leaves. So there it is. Within just 3 days, all that growth is dying. Now these leaves have oil on them. You still don't want to touch them. You don't want to cut them down. Especially don't want to burn them. If you burn them, the oil droplets can get in the smoke and in the air. You can inhale it. It's very dangerous. So I just let them drop. Just remember, whatever tool you use to cut the vines, you've got to clean it. This blade had a little bit of residue right on the tip where I cut it. I wiped it down with paper towels. You want to get everything off that you can, because if you touch that, you can transfer the oil to your skin. All right, I'm just going to start the saw. I'm going to zip through that vine. I'm going to cut out a couple of inches and just kick it out to ensure that nothing can get past that vine. I'm going to set the saw down over here to start it because this is all poison ivy. All right, you can see that big chunk that I cut out. I'll come back in a day or two and I'll look up and see how many of those leaves were actually poison ivy. Now that I'm done with that, I'm going to take these gloves off and turn them inside out. I can touch them now because any potential oil is wrapped up on the inside. So I'll just throw those away. Now there are a couple things I want to talk about regarding poison ivy. I think it's kind of fascinating. You know, I've wondered for a long time, how does the plant spread and grow? And I've read, let me take these glasses off now too, since they're getting steamed up. It's hot today. I've read that poison ivy can spread through the roots, through the, I think they're rhizomes, like a lot like how bamboo spreads. Personally, I've been cutting poison ivy like this for years, and I have not seen it grow back from the roots. The primary way that I've seen for, I was going to say bamboo, for poison ivy to spread is through the seeds. And when you let the poison ivy get so mature, it goes to seed. And when it goes to seed, it drops and spreads all around, or birds eat it. And I think that's one of the biggest ways that poison ivy spreads. That's why you find it under trees, because birds hang out in trees and they go to the bathroom and the seeds come out. Along fence lines or along the edges of areas. So the seeds from poison ivy seem to be one of the biggest ways for it to spread. Like I said, I've cut it off for years and have not seen it grow back from that vine. Been very successful with it. And I've also have other areas where if you stay on top of it, you can practically eliminate it. You just keep an eye on it. When those little vines start, cut them off right away. Don't let it go to seed, and you'll keep it under control. So if we use this patch as an example, this tree has a tremendous amount of poison ivy growing all around the bottom. This is also the tree that has that big vine with all the poison ivy on top. So if you think about it, as those poison ivy leaves go to seed, they drop the seeds all the way down, which would explain why this entire area has a lot of poison ivy. I've heard that after you cut the vine like that you can spread a little bit of herbicide on it with a brush, specially designed for vines. If you just take a little paintbrush and spread it on the top of that vine, supposedly that helps kill the roots. But again, it's not something I've ever had to do. The other thing you have to be careful with is your pets, because dogs can roll in poison ivy or walk through poison ivy in the woods, and the oils can stick to their fur, and then they come in and you pet the dog, and that can transfer to you. Did you go swimming? Did you go swimming? Yeah? Did you catch any fish? Did you roll in any poison ivy? Poison ivy oils, I believe, can even float in the water. So that's another way that your pets can pick up the oils and attach to their fur, and then you can catch it from that. Get it, Soph. Get it. What is it? Get it. No way. Now, if you do find yourself with the rash from poison ivy, there are a couple myths I wanted to talk about. One myth is that poison ivy is contagious. That's not true. Poison ivy is not contagious. If you know someone that has the rash, you can't touch that rash and get a reaction. Now, it is possible to transfer the poison ivy oil from one person to the other. So if you have it on your hands and you touch someone else, they can react. If they have it and you touch them, same thing. But the rash, the blisters that you see, that is not contagious or transferable. The other myth is that poison ivy spreads, and that's not true. Poison ivy, the rash, does not spread on your body. If you see it in one place one day and then the next day it pops up somewhere else, that's not because it spread, that's because you had the oil there too and maybe took a little bit longer to react to it. But it does not spread across your body. Now, something I've heard, but I've not confirmed it, I meant to look it up, but I forgot. But I've heard that once you start to react to poison ivy, that each time you get it, your reaction gets worse every time. I don't know if that's scientific or if it's true, but in my case, it does seem true. When I was younger, before I even knew what poison ivy was, I could just grab the vines and pull them down and end up with a little bit of poison ivy between my fingers. But other than that, it wasn't too bad. But now, I seem to get it worse. So I'm more careful than I ever was, and it's not really a problem, but I have found that I do catch it more than I used to. So maybe that's maturity setting in. I don't know. Now, it's been about 12 hours since I cut that big vine, and I can already see the poison ivy leaves starting to wilt up in the top of the tree. So, might not be the brightest idea, but I'm going to take the drone up and see if I can get a visual around that tree as to how much poison ivy was actually growing around it. I've had to turn off the obstacle avoidance, and I'm just going to have to be really careful and keep an eye on it.
Take off.
You can see that's all poison ivy. That's a lot of poison ivy. I'm at 42 feet above ground level right now. Hey, if you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button, tap the like button, click that little bell so you're notified next time I put out a video, and make a comment. I'd love to talk to you in the comments. So I appreciate you watching today. I appreciate you being part of this YouTube journey with me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.